Hey, welcome back. My name is Dan. I'm assuming you know that if you've turned go on. And today I want to talk about how to ship fairly large paintings. Now I'm going to show you mainly one technique. The technique that I'm not going to show you is this one right here. This was a 36 by 60 inch painting, a 3 by 5 foot painting, okay? And I'll show you how to do this perhaps some other time, but it involves some of the same materials we'll be using today. 30 by 60 would, in my limited experience, would just be prohibitive. By prohibitive, I mean, I'm thinking $400 or something like that to ship. To me, that's prohibitive, okay? So to avoid that, I have taken the painting, the 3 by 5 foot painting off the stretcher bars, cleared this with my client first of all, said, is this okay? And they said, yep. Took it off the stretcher bars, rolled it up, and packaged it like that. So that's a 3 by 5 foot painting. I'd call that a fairly large painting. And now I'm going to show you how to pack up a much more moderate, but still for most of you, a fairly large painting. This is 30 by 40 inches. It's a really nice painting, if I say so myself. Really nice painting that I did about a week ago on the 4th of July in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina, my hometown. And I learned this packaging technique, most of it from my good friend Mike Rooney. Hi Mike, kudos to you. I have no idea where he learned it. I know he learned it from somebody else, but I learned it from him. So I'm going to show you how to do it. First of all, let me show you what I'm using here today. It is basically styrofoam insulation. 1 inch thick. I bought it at Home Depot. In other words, it is not an art supply store product. It's a hardware store. And let me think. What did I have you do first? First of all, let's wrap up the painting. I hope you're paying attention. I hope some of you need to hear this. Listen, some of you need to hear this. Do not use bubble wrap on an oil painting. Why? Because there's some chemical in the bubble wrap plastic that reactivates the oil paint and will turn it into mush and ruin your painting. How do I know that? Thank God it wasn't from one of my paintings. It was a friend of mine who ordered a beautiful painting in Europe, asked the artist to ship it. The artist sensibly wrapped it in bubble wrap, and it was a disaster by the time it reached America, and they had to pay me several hundred more dollars to essentially repaint their nice Paris painting. So do not wrap up paintings in bubble wrap. Now I know there's probably a limit, like, well, you know, how old does the oil painting have to be before it's safe to wrap it in bubble wrap? I do not know the answer to that question. All I know is that my guess is it's not just a is the painting dry kind of thing, but is the painting cured? Very much the same kind of question that we ask when we are varnishing a painting, right? So don't wrap up a painting in bubble wrap, as you see me here struggling to do. Actually, I had an assistant lined up to help me with this, and he's going to show up in a minute, I'm sure, but he's not here yet, and I'm going to just go ahead without him. I am wrapping this in paper. Now, let me hasten to add to, you know, this is obviously not, this is not how the Rijksmuseum packages up a Rembrandt, right? Are you with me? I mean, and if you think you are a Rembrandt, God have mercy on your poor deceived soul. You are not, neither am I. So I feel like this is fair treatment for a painting that's being paid in the, let's just say, 4-figure range, and not even the 5, let alone 6, let alone 7-figure range. Okay, so I don't care about all you fat cats, big dogs that are pulling in 25 grand for your painting. You can afford, if you're getting 20,000, if you're getting $15,000 for your paintings, you can afford something better than this. So I'm not talking to you guys. I am not talking to you guys. I'm talking to people that live in the world that I live in. Let's just say I'm being paid less than $10,000. Considerably less than $10,000. But again, I'm not complaining. I'm making a living as an artist. I paint most of the time, blah, 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 blah. So, I don't want a bunch of snobs saying, that's a terrible way to package a painting. Yeah. Get out of here. If your painting's worth $1 million, then you're not watching my program anyway. And anyway, so this is clearly just for people that live more or less on the same planet that I live on. Economy is an issue. You already heard me say I felt like $400. Yeah, that's prohibitive for me. So I don't want to be paying no $400. I'll pay $250, $200. I expect I'll be paying in the range of $200 for this painting. Did I tell you it's going to Canada? That's ironic, isn't it? Thanks, Ken. What fun. A patriotic American painting going to Canada. That's fun. I'm Canadian, by the way, so I think it's doubly fun. Well, I should say I used to be Canadian. I've long since been neutralized. So technically I'm not Canadian anymore. Technically, but I consider going back fairly occasionally. Okay, now what I have here is a painting very roughly and so on, as you saw, wrapped up in paper. I'm now going to trace. This might not be what you expected. I've got a Sharpie bullet point marker in my hand, and I am tracing this painting. I just eyeballed it. I want it roughly centered on the styrofoam. Oh, one more thing I should mention. I have already done one thing to these two sheets of styrofoam. That is, they've already been narrowed down to the appropriate width. Okay, these were 48 inches wide, and I've taken about 12 inches off each side, so it's no longer full length. I didn't show you that part. I used those lengths to package up my big painting. Okay, so what I have here is the outline of the painting. And what I have here is Cobalt. Woo! Yay, Lowe's fans. A snap-off blade. The best thing in the world for carving, for cutting styrofoam is a snap-off blade. And I'm going to start slicing. Some of you are having a fit that I'm doing this on my wife's dining room table. Well, two things. Number one, it's also my dining room table. Number two, it's a cheap old table with Formica on the top. Now that still doesn't mean I have permission or allow myself to cut knife marks into the top of it. I am not going all the way through, but of course still it's a little bit dangerous. What would happen if I did accidentally go all the way through? Then yes, I would be cutting little grooves onto our fine Formica dining room table. So most of you know, I presume, that Formica is not fine. Those two, you know, those two words do not go in the same sentence, except to say that Formica is not fine. Anyway, everybody has to come up with their own solutions in life. One of our solutions is that our dining room table, and by the way, we use our dining room table a good bit, and when we do, we often make it real pretty. You know how? Tablecloth. Tablecloth covers a whole multitude of artists' sins, and so we can have it both ways. There are times when the dining room table, and you know, my wife is just, I guess, we've never even discussed it. I think she just knows it's part of living with an artist. For some reason, this snap-off blade just came out. It's a good thing I have extra. I'm going to put that one aside. I have an extra one over here, and I don't know if you noticed when I held that up, but I'm actually was holding up a narrow gauge snap-off blade as opposed to a wide. Okay, either one will work. Generally speaking, on this kind of styrofoam, I find the skinny blade is actually easier to handle than there's less drag on the blade, easier than the wide blade. So I'm going to continue using another. So what you see me doing here is, I didn't go all the way through the first time, right? And then the second time I pull it off the edge of the table. And just for what it's worth, I believe I'm going to get through all of today's project without getting a single cut mark on our fine Formica table. Again, fine Formica, that's an oxymoron, I'm assuming you all know that. Anyway, so my wife knows, living with an artist, that sometimes we do not have the beautiful Thomasville cherry wood dining room suite, and we're both comfortable with that. Okay, now this project could get a little bit boring, so I'm going to divide it into two halves at least. But first of all, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do while I'm gone. In just a minute, let's take this a little bit further. Now, I'm sure you can figure out that I keep this piece for smaller paintings, right? This is a 30 by 40 inch panel, so that could easily nail a 24 by 36 inch painting. And I keep those up in my shed where they will be used again. So now I have a hole here just big enough, hopefully, yep, for this 30 by 40 inch painting to sit down in. You see what I did? I'm going to cut it off here, and then I'm going to make two of these. In other words, I'm going to make two styrofoam donuts, square donuts. Right? I'm going to make two styrofoam frames that fit around this painting. There'll be a 30 by 40 inch hole in the middle, and then on the outside that'll be about 3 inches bigger all the way around. So when I'm done, I'll have a, what's 30 by 40? 36 by 46, roughly 36 by 46. The outside panels, of course, won't have holes in them. They'll be solid, but I'll come back and do that part in part two, because you don't want to watch me make all of these cuts. But if you ever have to ship paintings, I hope you're watching this, and I hope you're sending it to some of your friends that need to hear this, okay? I'll be back in a few minutes.